Hey guys, welcome back to another episode from New Agrarian on YouTube, where we're all about aquaponics, hydroponics, and agriculture. In today's episode, we're going to be making a vegetarian Swiss chard galumpki, which is basically a stuffed Swiss chard leaf. A farm-to-table dish that uses mostly all of the vegetables from our aquaponics and hydroponics greenhouses. We use primarily deep water culture to grow our vegetables. You can see this red Russian kale with its roots completely submerged in water. Hydroponic tomatoes are also a staple of our greenhouse production here, and we grow 3 different varieties. In this video, we're going to be incorporating our early girl tomatoes, as they are some of the first ones to be harvested. In our hydroponic NFT tables, we've got a variety of herbs and greens, but today we're going to be using our Swiss chard that you can see I'm harvesting in this shot. If you want to know more about some of my favorite plants to grow, check out the video I did on best plants. Here I'm harvesting some red vein sorrel that we'll be using just for a garnish, as well as some basil here, which is one of the best things to have on hand in a greenhouse. We'll also be incorporating some of these red Russian kale leaves into the dish, as well as some fresh parsley and chives. Now let's take them to the kitchen. So you can see just from that little bit I harvested, there is quite a lot of vegetables here, enough to feed several people, and you can also see the quality of these vegetables. They almost look fake. So the first thing that I'm going to do is all the knife work for the vegetables to get my mise en place ready. We're going to be making a quick tomato sauce that you can see in another video on my YouTube channel, but to start with the tomatoes, we're going to remove the cores, and then we're going to score an X on the bottoms of each tomato. And I'm using 4 tomatoes for this recipe. For our Swiss chard, we're going to remove the stems by cutting a notch into them. The stems you can kind of treat like celery, and then you're going to stack the leaves to the side. While we have the stems removed, we're going to carefully split them and cut them into small strips and give those a nice small dice. This is rainbow Swiss chard. These stems will add a nice vibrant color to any dish that you use them in. For our chives, we will go ahead and just give those a nice fine mince. And for our basil, we will stack our basil leaves up, roll them up, and give them a nice chiffonade or ribbon cut. Parsley, we will just go ahead and rough chop. This is going to get blended into our sauce. We'll treat the kale similar to how we treated the basil, stack it and chiffonade it into ribbons. We're going to be using several cloves of garlic for this recipe, so I'll just go ahead and crush those and begin to peel them. Once I have my garlic peeled, I'll go ahead and give it a nice rough chop, and we're actually going to mince this garlic up pretty fine for this recipe. If you would like to, you can add some salt and kind of rub that into the garlic with your knife. The abrasiveness of the salt and moisture releasing will turn it into a puree. We're also going to use 1 onion for this recipe, so I'll go ahead and dice that up. And there we have it, guys. That's our mise en place. You can see all of the diced vegetables and sorrel leaves. Now it's time to blanch the Swiss chard leaves and get to work on the tomato sauce. So I'm going to dunk these Swiss chard leaves in boiling water for about 8 to 10 seconds until they just lightly wilt, and then I'm going to go ahead and shock them in an ice bath to stop the cooking process. This is what we're going to wrap our filling in, so we want to make sure that we do not overcook them because they're going to need to hold filling. Into that boiling water, I will then drop my scored tomatoes, and this is called concassing the tomatoes, and again, I went over this in another video, but we'll dunk them for about 1 minute, put them in an ice bath, and then remove the skins. You can also do this process with a food mill if you have one, but I do not have one. I'll then quarter the tomatoes and then begin to squeeze the juice and seeds out of them. In a small sauce pot, I'll put down some olive oil followed by half of my onions, and I will split that down until they start to become translucent, and then I will add my garlic puree. Once that becomes fragrant, I'll add my concassed tomatoes and stir that around to get everything nice and coated. I'll then add half of my parsley, as well as a tablespoon of Montreal steak seasoning. I'm going to add a few basil leaves to a blender, followed by the sauce, and give that a nice blending. You can also add some tomato paste here if you'd like more rich tomato flavor. To make our filling, we're going to start to saute our Swiss chard stems and the other half of our onion in a skillet, followed by the other half of our garlic puree. Once those things get warm, we're going to season those with salt and pepper. We're going to add 1 cooked spaghetti squash and mix that all around. Once that is pretty much heated through, we're going to add our kale until the leaves begin to wilt, followed by the other half of our parsley, the chiffonaded basil ribbons, a couple red pepper flakes just for spice. Give that a mix, and then we're going to grate in a good amount of Parmesan cheese. Taste it as you go until it reaches the desired level of saltiness that you like, and that's our filling. So now we're going to jam as much of that filling into each of these Swiss chard leaves as possible. So I'm going to put the filling down, tuck and roll the sides, and roll that up till it's a nice bundle, and that is our finished Swiss chard galumpkis. I'll go ahead and run through as many of those leaves as I can and make sure that all sides are sealed so none of the filling leaks out when we bake these in the oven. So in a small pan, I'll put down a layer of my tomato sauce followed by my galumpkis, and I'll heat that in an oven at 375 degrees for about 15 minutes, and then it's time to plate. So in a small bowl, we'll put down our warm sauce followed by a galumpki that I actually cut in half. I'm going to grate some Parmesan cheese over the top of those, garnish with some chives and our sorrel leaves. And that is our complete dish, guys. This is a really amazing greenhouse recipe. It's vegetarian, it's unique, it's fun to eat. I promise you it's worth it. Give it a try and let me know if you do. Thanks for watching.